Hey everybody, so this is going to be a short video. I've had some questions from people asking about, well, lots of different questions, but what I'm seeing from these questions is I think a lot of it kind of boils down to maybe not having a good understanding of proper gain staging. And gain staging is just such an essential thing to just fully know. I wanted to make a short video on how I handle it. You know, different people have different levels that they work at, but I'm going to show you what I do and what works for me. All right, so here we go. Okay, so I'm within my Cubase template here, and I just have kind of a basic drum track going right now. So let me just play you these drums. Okay, so you know they're sort of semi-mixed. This isn't a mixed project yet. Like I said, it's just a basic starting template that I often go from. So let me just kind of show you what I got going on in here. So I have two screens, so I'm going to be dragging things down. So this is the template. It's going to my Vienna Ensemble Pro rack for the drum set stuff, and then feeding back into Cubase. Where are they? Down here. These are all the audio tracks feeding back from Cubase. Let me open it up in the mixer view. So these are all the audio tracks. So what I want to show you, I've got a lot of processing and stuff already on these, but basically what I shoot for, here's the trick. What you want to shoot for is you want to shoot for getting minus 15 dB on the output of your fader, of your tracks fader, right? So these aren't exactly right. So I'm going to get in here and kind of adjust some of these and show you so I can get good gain staging now. And then you can see how generally the faders, I kind of want them up here around that 0 dB point. Now these snares are low and I'm seeing a lot of gain on that one, so this is going to be a good indication of one that I can adjust a little bit. So let me show you that. Let's do that with the snare here first. So you can see how right now I'm getting minus 11.7 on that snare. Let's take a look at the channel. So I do have my basic processing here. I've got it going through a compressor, in through a just a little kind of drive, like an analog drive thing, and then a little bit of high air. Not too much happening on this, just a little air boost on there. And then I have my low cut because it's just a snare. So the key is this right down here, this pre-gain. A lot of people using Cubase don't seem to use this much, or maybe even know about it. So this pre-gain, if you know, if you're from the old analog console world, this is like your trim, right? This pre-gain is the first thing that your incoming signal sees before any of the other stuff, right? So what you can do is, the first thing you want to do is basically put this at 0, and then you would want to not have inserts on, and then have your signal feeding through, and you get this to minus 15. So let's do that right now. It's going to be really hot. I'm going to turn off my mic so you're not hearing doubled up audio. So let me actually take this a step back. So what's happening here? We've got a MIDI note that's going into, in this case, a battery 4. Let me pull up, let me see if I can flip this so you can see the other screen. Yeah, so this is my PC. Let me move this over here. This is my PC workstation that's hosting the Vienna Ensemble Pro. So anyway, this snare right here, this is the snare hit. So let's look in here and make sure we're not clipping. So gain staging, proper gain staging, what it means is you work yourself through the signal from the source of the signal and making sure that you have good signal to noise ratio. You're not clipping and you're not too quiet. In a digital domain on the computer, we have a lot of headroom, so we don't need, it's not like the old days on an analog tape where you need to be slamming up against the red all the time to get a good signal to noise ratio. Computers, we have tons and tons of headroom. So as long as you're getting a decent signal, that's why I shoot for minus 15 dB. You don't need to be shooting for like minus 2 dB. So anyway, so that's what we're going to do now. We just want to make sure we're not clipping. So let me play this again, and we're going to look up here at our battery output for this particular snare hit and make sure we're not clipping anywhere. So you see we're pretty good. We got about minus 17. That's just fine. So we are good on that first stage. Now we move on to the second stage, which is where we were just a second ago, looking at this input gain now. So you see how right now when I have this set to 0, we're getting minus 3. So I can bring this gain down. What can I bring it down? Another 12, right? So we're at minus 5 now. I can go down to minus 17 on this. Let's take a listen. Okay, so I've got that to minus 15, and that's probably going to sound a little quiet to you right now, which is fine. We will get there. So what we've done is we've just created this baseline, right? We have our minus 15 baseline. Let me go ahead and get my inserts going in here, see where we're at. Okay, you see how those inserts raised us a little bit. So every insert, often, not everyone, but a lot of them have an input gain and an output level, right? So in this case, our first one is this Ssl Compressor. So we know we bring our threshold down. So this doesn't have an input gain, if I'm remembering right, but it does have the makeup gain, which is like our output level. So you could, depending on how anal you want to get about this, you can go through this one at a time. So maybe right now we'll do that. I usually don't, but that's fine. Let's check that out. So you can see there how putting this compressor in dropped it down 0.4, and look at that, our makeup gain is a minus 0.4. So if I put that at 0, that should get us back to minus 15. And there we are in that. So now let's bring in the next one. So you can see how that boosted it up a bunch. Let's take a look at that plug-in. So this, we've got a drive, obviously, and then we have an out gain. So let me see if there's anything else that I'm missing. So you can see how even having this drive at 0 and our output gain at 0, it's still increased our gain there by, what, like 6.1 dB? So it doubled it, right? So let's look. Let's take a look. So you can see how it's barely doing anything, and probably the reason is because we turn, well, not probably, the reason is we turn that gain way down. So I want it to be doing something. This isn't going to be a tutorial on how to make these plugins sound good. This is just purely about the gain staging. So I'm going to bring out this drive because I do want that to be affecting the sound a little bit, and then I'll bring my out gain down in order to make that hit minus 15. Here we go. Okay, so now I have that snare feeding in to this, you know, the fader of my channel there is at minus 15. So we work our way down the line now. This is feeding into our drums group. So let me look at my drums group. And so I've got a lot of other signals obviously going into that drum group, but that gives you an idea. That's right around minus 14.5 right now. So that's what I did with the snare in order to get that back up along with everything else. Snare 2 is not being worked. Now the acoustic kick is really hot. See how we're at minus 6? So I'm going to fix that real quick. This is an easy one to show. Probably I should have started here. Acoustic Kick, I don't have any inserts or anything on it anyway. So, you know, no processing yet. So this is a good place to start. As soon as you put your signal through, whether it's a synth or whatever, this is the place to start before you start messing with inserts, getting your gain staging right. So let me just check that VEP signal, make sure we're good there. Hey everybody, so okay, that's the video there. I actually recorded the whole video and then went back and edited it. And so I've already seen that there were a few times there where I had both my webcam mic and the Cubase audio coming together, making the drums sound like crap. So I apologize for that. Of course, the irony is I'm sitting here talking about gain staging, but giving you guys some nasty junk to listen to sometimes. With that said, hopefully you got something out of this. I am going to probably try and figure out a better talk mic situation for these because the webcam mic just isn't cutting it. But with all that said, so what did cut out is at the end there I started talking, but I didn't turn on the webcam mic, so I talked for a few more minutes. And really, I think the only thing left to say is that this isn't a hard and fast rule. You know, some people are going to say to get to like -10. What I like about getting to -15 for everything is the point is you're not done once you're at -15. Once you have everything at -15, you have a good sort of solid blanket of all of the sounds for you to begin doing a decent mix. What happens is a lot of times people will record and get things really hot and get every single track really hot, and then they try and go to mix and they're fighting with all the different elements, just trying to get the space and get the volume the way they need it. So by doing the gain staging first, really like as soon as you can, once you instantiate a synth, get the gain staging set. Once you plug in a guitar to record it, get the gain staging set right then. If you do it right then everything else is going to be a lot easier. You know, if you record everything and start processing and doing all that stuff, it's kind of like that snare I showed you. You're then having to go back through all the steps to get your gain staging right, and you might mess up some of your processing. So think of it that way. Gain staging is the first thing to do to get so all your levels are generally the same. Once they're all generally the same, then your mixing now is going to be a whole lot easier. It's going to be so much easier to find those cool and interesting elements within your songs to bring those up a little bit. It's also going to really help you to see, like say you have a guitar and a synth that are competing in the same frequency area. You might not notice if you just have everything really loud and panned, but when you get everything properly gain staged, you're going to start hearing these conflicts come through a little easier, and you'll be able to address that stuff right at the beginning. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful to some of y'all, and again, my apologies for some of the vocal distortion and clipping. I'm going to try and get that stuff addressed here in future videos.